at how churches are organized within CrossReference. CrossReference organizes its groups in a hierarchical fashion. In other words, groups belong to groups that belong to groups that belong to groups. And records, of course, belong to groups as well. So when we want to model a church, we model it over the things that are similar and common to churches everywhere. For example, if I go over into churches, you can see we have church services. Every church wants to track attendance. This is how we do it within CrossReference. We add a service, and then we go ahead and add attended and those who received Christ. And of course, those who receive Christ will appear in attended as well as being received as having received Christ, and then the service as a whole. Bible studies, of course, you are able to drill down into the Bible study itself, those who are involved, those who are not attended, and leaders. Households are a special group. The importance of households is making it easy to maintain addresses, and this is how we do it. We establish a household with the name of the head of the household. You could do it by address or whatever you want to name this group. But the head of the household has the parents as head of the household, and then members of the household are the children that are involved in the household. Now, the important thing about this particular group is that when a member of the head of the household has their address changed, it carries on over to the members. And that makes it much more easy to maintain addresses in CrossReference. Outreaches, of course, model outreaches that a church does. And within an outreach, we have leaders. These are the people who organize it, people who have been spoken to within the outreach. Oftentimes, in an outreach, you're trying to reach the lost. In this case, we speak to a number of people. Some of those people have heard the gospel. And so those who heard the gospel are another group. And then those who've heard the gospel, some of them have received Christ. Another thing that we have are courses. Classes are oftentimes repeated. So if you're going to repeat classes over and over again for something that's common, such as Basics of the Faith, you add in a course, and then the individual classes that people attend are added underneath that. Now, a class is a class from beginning to end. In other words, the initiation of the information in that particular class all the way to completion of that class. And of course, a certain course may be taught several times a year. In this case, Basics of the Faith is taught in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. And within each of these particular classes, you'll have the leaders, people who are signed up, those who have attended, and those who have passed the class, and those who have not passed the class and failed the class. And then within discipleship, sometimes you have disciplers who disciple someone, who disciples others, who disciples others, who disciples others. So in this case, we have this discipler, Ernest, and the people he has discipled have not discipled anyone else. In other cases, you may have a discipler who disciples people who become disciplers. Estrella is somebody like that. And so when we look at Estrella's group, it's not only the people she's discipled, but of course the people her disciple have discipled. And we'll show how to differentiate Estrella's from Adelina Neighbors' particular disciple group. Needless to say, one of the people that Estrella has discipled is Adelina Neighbors, and so now Adelina Neighbors is a discipler. And so this is the tree for Estrella Samu, and you could see how discipleship has evolved through this particular person. There's a discipler group, and then discipleship involved, which is, of course, the people who have been discipled by that particular discipler. We have members involved, non-members. We have elders and deacons, and within staff, we divide it between general staff, pastoral staff, and the head pastor. Of course, pastoral staff are amongst all staff. And then we can actually show you as well how to differentiate between those who are pastoral staff and those who are other kinds of staff. We have volunteers group, and volunteers, you can subdivide that however you wish. Youth groups are similar to churches themselves. It's a little bit more simplified. Some groups do not necessarily apply to youth groups, but you can see here we have church services, Bible studies, outreaches, courses, discipleship, and then we have youth staff and volunteers, which are oftentimes separate from the general staff and general volunteers of the church as well. So this gives you an overview of how churches are structured within CrossReference. And if this describes fully how a church works, then from there we can then begin to learn a lot about how church groups interact with each other. For example, we will be able to see how many people from church services go to Bible studies, how many people from Bible studies have attended a class, and so on. And this is something that we'll cover later when we talk about summaries and queries. But for right now, this helps you understand the groups that are involved in CrossReference.